So to the extent,
because that factors in revenue that people can't bring in effectively that would generate profits. So it's a combination of missed profit and expense that we maybe don't want. But I see it more as missed profit in a variety of arenas.
well, I take that to be that where you're saying that even though your revenue is down from 130 million to 120 million and you're break even, that if this were working in a more optimal way, you'd be back at your, basically your 2 points of operating profit without having had to have made those other cuts that you're talking about, right?
Yes. Yep, I can see it that way.
How about in terms of the the effect on you personally in terms of the amount of hours you have to work, or between I assume you kind of got a troika between yourself, the CEO, and the COO.
Yeah.
Can you put a number on that in terms of what you're having to expend now as a result of the fact that you've got this mediocre talent that you wouldn't have to if you had a better crew?
Well, there'd be less time spent on issues that just would never show up to begin with. So that's, multiple hours a week of time wasted on stuff that really
like
what's
how
the
many?
value add?
I mean, just think about yourself. How many hours are you working now that you might not have to work if this were in a better spot?
I think I'd work the same hours, but I would have more time to work on higher value added stuff. That's what I would prefer.
And so if that were the case, and you were working on higher value stuff, what might that produce? What could you throw a number on that, or throw some kind of way that you could evaluate that?
I'd like to think it's easily $500,000 to $1 million of additional profit from initiatives that we can accomplish sooner, faster, that will generate either more profit, more gross margin, or reduce cost.
So if my simple math is right, that between the folks, the talent issues that you have causing you up to $2 million a year, plus the fact you could be working on things that might generate another, that's 3. Right?
Okay. I'll go with 2 to 3.
$2 to $3 million a year. What happens if this doesn't change over the next couple of years? If
I
things are just
have a, that phrase where you hit your head against a wall?
Yeah.
I have a big bruise on my forehead. Or I leave. I'm done. I run out of energy. I run out of energy to tackle it.
Wow, that sounds pretty. I mean, I even see some emotion around that. I mean, that's kind of scary.
If I can't make headway, why beat my head against a wall?
So you consider this kind of these kinds of solutions to be make or break for you? Do I get that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone has to be pulling their fair share of load to help move the company forward. It can't just be a few people from corporate. And we do, don't get me wrong, we definitely have a lot of great talent, just not enough of it. And, the mediocre talent that we have costs us time and money.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
It's annoying. That's what it is. It's annoying. 3 examples in the last 24 hours. Really? I just wasted an hour on this topic because I had someone act like a 4-year-old. If he'd acted like an adult, it would have avoided 2 conversations that cost an hour. I had another guy who ignored a couple of my emails, and finally I stuck my assistant on it, to come to find out the guy lost the book that I'd asked him to read 3 months ago, and he never fessed up. He thought he could just not answer my email and hide. It's not a big deal if you lost it. Just tell me. Ooh, I lost it. I gotta get a new one. He didn't do that. He just didn't answer the email. Makes me crazy.
Sounds like really frustration.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. We're adults, not children.
So, if you were able to sit around the table with 12 to 16 people who you could share some of this with, some of these frustrations and some of the issues that you have, what might come of that from your perspective in terms of ideas about how you might be able to make things different?
Well, first off, it would feel better just having the ability to, share out, and presumably others have similar challenges. They just look different and have different names on the payroll checks or whatever. And undoubtedly, different people have done different things that could be applicable to our situation. So.
Yes, but I also have to think too that if you got hundreds of years of experience of people dealing with growth issues, you're going to have people who've had some of these frustrations. And my guess is
that's what I mean. That they absolutely will have had similar issues, and hopefully have had solutions that they came up with that worked, that could possibly work for us.
So, how valuable might that be to you?
Well, if it can convert my frustration into energy and creation, it'd be hugely valuable.
So,
I like to do things. I like to get things done.
Yeah, I'm just kind of jumping some places here. I can see, that you're a person of action. My sense is that you'd get significant value from being able to sit around a table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely would.
So I'm not missing something. That's about how you're feeling about it too. The groups that I run are demanding, and when I say that, when the people join this group, they're not only joining for themselves and kind of being able to get value, but they're interested in the other people that sit around the table, being able to contribute to them. Mm-hmm. And so, what can you tell me about yourself as a member in a group experience, and what you might be able to bring to the table to the other members of the group that are dealing with issues?
Right. I'm not a wallflower, so, I do speak up when I have opinions.
Sounds to me like that.
So, I'm not going to be afraid of contributing an idea that I have. And I went to business school, so the business school that I went to, it was all case study format, teams, and so I'm used to that sort of environment, being on teams and contributing in the classroom and the teams. And, I think I have an interesting background in terms of I worked in commercial lending. I then worked for American Airlines for 7 years, and now I've been in private industry for, 10 years. So I've got sort of being on the banker side of the table, the big company, and the smaller company. So, not everyone has that kind of experience that they bring to the table. And so.
Where'd you go to business school?
Dartmouth.
Really, the Tuck School.
Mm-hmm. I
My son-in-law went there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, probably.
What year did he graduate?
Well, mid-'80s.
Okay, it was early 90s.
91. It sounds to me like this is really a fit for you. Am I?
Well, I'd like to hear about the people in the group in terms of what size companies and what's their background. Because I was in a group before with a different organization, and the people in the group weren't at the same level. And so I want to understand what the group is made of that would have me feel that it would be more of a two-way as opposed to a me contributing.
That's a wonderful question.
So
yeah, and you know, because I come from having been a member myself for many years, so I mean I can totally align with the fact that that's necessary. But what I can absolutely also tell you is that, you know, we invite CEOs to the table and human beings show up.
agreed. Right.
And so my belief is absolutely that it's all about the human beings. And so I believe strongly in making sure that you've got human beings that can really contribute to each other.
Right.
And I sometimes find, interestingly enough, that people with some interesting experiences and interesting background, even though the business they might run might be a $6 million business, might be able to contribute very effectively to someone. I watch it all the time.
Right.
You know, it's a big business. So I'm not so much in the place of feeling like the businesses need to be the same, but I think that the people need to be able to contribute.
And that's a good point, because we all have different roles at different times in our lives that are separate from
You've had some.
Right.
That where you've come from some different places. So that's absolutely my commitment and what I have found worked for me, not only as a member, but as I begin to build this group. So you would be a founding member of this group.
Oh, okay.
And
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
well, you know, people can look at it different ways, but I'm going to suggest to you that I think it's really a positive thing, because what I'm looking for are founding members that can help me think through who the best people are that can sit around the table that can contribute to each other.
Oh, okay, I like that.
Because my experience is that the people who are in the group oftentimes have the best insight into who sits around the table.
Right. Okay.
So what I can say to you just as a personal commitment is that I'm in total alignment with your concern.
Right.
And
okay.
I wouldn't be happy either if we didn't have people who could absolutely you know, think and operate in a very facile way.
Right.
That and really help each other not only deal with opportunities but challenges and frustrations and all that sort of thing on an ongoing basis.
Okay, no, that's a good answer. So if you're a founding member, would you start when you get a core quantity of people, or when would you actually start if you were?
We actually have. I actually have a start date picked out.
Okay.
December the 18th.
Got it. Okay.
And we have several of the people already committed to join. And when we get a minimum of 8 people, we will start.
Got it. Okay.
And then what we do is we get started at that point, but then my objective is that, you know, we'll have 16 people sitting around the table in fairly short order after we get started.
Right. Okay.
But my commitment would be to have a minimum of 8 on December 18th.
Right.
You know, based on our conversations, it seems to me like we're in agreement about a lot of things. Does this sound like something that would work for you?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely interested, and you know, one of the things I have missed about being at a big company like American Airlines is it was an incredibly rich group of people, great training, you know, great idea, people bounce ideas off of, and I've missed that. I've missed that being in a smaller company, and so you know, this would sort of fill some of that void that I've had since leaving the big company. But I don't need the big company politics, so
Well, wonderful.
I'd rather.
Well, welcome to Vistage.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
And what I'd like to do now is fill out the application, but also tell you that in the interim between now and the time we actually start the group, it's my habit to actually do one-on-ones with you and begin our relationship so that you can begin getting value from Vistage, even though the group doesn't start until December 18th. So it'll give us the opportunity to meet a couple of times, and I will probably, although I haven't set a date yet, what I'd like to also do is just have kind of a small organizational meeting with some of the founding members, so that you can get to know each other and begin the process, even though the clock doesn't start running until officially December 18th.
Okay, I was going to ask that question on the fees.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
December?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll pay we'll sign now. When we sign the application, you'll sign for the enrollment fee and the first month's dues. But the first month's dues do not actually take effect until we have our first meeting on December 18th.
Okay.
So with that in mind, what I'd like to do is fill out this application. So I have a 1 right here, right where, and this is just basically the fact that you and I have agreed on the basic idea of you becoming a member. So if you'd like to start there, and then we've got a few other things to discuss.
Do we date it?
No, well, yes, you can, sure. I'll populate this with a lot of the other stuff later.
Nice.
Next, I'd like to just go over a few things that are, if you will, just some things that we like to have agreement about in the beginning. And just like I just actually mentioned this that you're going to begin your membership actually on December 18th. So even though we're going to sign today for the enrollment fee and the first month's dues don't take effect till December 18th. And the second we also talked a little bit about too, but it's kind of a core piece of this, and that is the whole notion of contributing your values, your experience, et cetera, to other people. It's one of the things that I think a lot of times new members don't realize, and that is that when other people join up, they have some of the same questions you do. Who else is going to sit around the table?
Right.
And it really, this kind of goes to another one of these too that talk about your level of participation, or if you will, the reverse of that is absenteeism. And those two things kind of fit together because the notion is that when you come to the group with an issue, let's say it's about your operations manager in Kentucky or wherever, and there's somebody else in the group that runs distribution operations in various places and has had these kinds of issues. My experience is that you're going to be dying to get input from that person. That person's not there
that day.
That's lost value for you. So one of the things we like to reinforce is just the notion not only that you be physically, emotionally, psychically present and in the contribution to other people's issues besides your own, but that you physically be present, because other people count on that, and you're going to count on that. So I like to think it's a core value of what we commit to. And the way I do that in my groups is that we know, you're a busy person, you travel, I'm sure, particularly if you got these distribution centers and so on, you're on the planes and what have you, just like I am. And so what we say is that we have 12 meetings a year, and we count on you being present for 10. And if you're, understand that you're going to have things happen and you're just not going to be able to make them occasionally. But if you miss more than 2, what I do is I say that you become an agenda item. And it doesn't mean that you get removed from the group, but it just means that, it's an agenda item of, are you really committed to this? because it's important to each other that we all be committed.
And what day of the week are the meetings?
Well, it's something that we'll decide together. You know, I picked a date, which is a Wednesday.
Ugh.
But it can be you know, we can make it
Right.
Tuesday or Thursday. In other words, I just picked that so that we could have a day to start.
Right.
But
Just-
that'll be a group decision that
Right.
we'll make about what day we meet.
Because that means you couldn't have a business trip that whole week
So for you,
to
you'd
the
rather
East
have.
Coast. I'd rather have at least 3 days where I can have a trip in the same week as a
Okay,
meeting.
so for you, it's better for it's a Tuesday or a Thursday.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's totally doable.
Okay.
Thirdly, we talked a little bit about this too, that you host. What you do when you host is that, you know, you provide a continental breakfast and you provide a lunch and that you know open your place so that people can really get acquainted with some of your key direct reports and et cetera, and get to know the business, not just from your perspective, but
Right,
from some
from their
others,
own.
because they can be more helpful to you in that
Okay.
regard. And I'm not great at reading upside down here,
Oh.
but to
Participate in
participate
all
in the
scheduled-
scheduled group, that's just attendance. We talked
Okay,
about
yep.
that. And confidentiality. I realize that this may kind of seem intuitively like you'd expect that, but I want to just shine the light on it because I think it's really crucial. And that is that in order to have everybody have totally open kimono and talk about the real stuff, there has to be a total commitment to confidentiality. So, I mean, it kind of goes
Okay.
without saying, but that's something we agreed to. That in fact we're going to pay the enrollment in the first month's dues up front, and on a monthly basis. You know I don't know what your preference is. You're a fairly large company. You might take a different approach to this. I generally recommend to people that you just pay for this by credit card, because you get the miles, and then it hits
the card.
It hits the card monthly. But there are discounts if you would choose to pay a year up front or 6 months up front, would be other options too.
Okay.
So